May we live in interesting times. What's going on, people? My name is Zulfikar and welcome to my YouTube channel, which predominantly is about the degenerate society we live in today and the conditioning and programming that we've all been subjected to by this degenerate society, and what you can do to overcome the impact of it so that you can live a more fulfilling and happier life. If you like the sound of that, please go ahead and click the subscribe button so that you can get more content on these topics. May you live in interesting times is actually a proverb attributed to the Chinese. So apparently it was a Chinese curse, where it's a bit of a paradoxical statement, because when they said may you live in interesting times, what they really meant is that you want to live in uninteresting times, because uninteresting times means there's peace, there's tranquility, there's happiness, whereas interesting times means there's a lot of turmoil, there's a lot of violence, and there's a lot of things happening which are really not that good for humanity. So the reason that I wanted to make this video was because, back in December time, so it's August 2021 right now. So back in December 2020, I drafted quite a few posts which I decided against publishing at the time, but the problem is it's been clawing at me ever since. You see, at the time I was focused on building a personal brand for business use only on social media. So my intention was to solely use these channels, so Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, even though I wasn't using YouTube at the time. My intention was to use all of these channels to build a personal business brand only and avoid talking about religion, politics and spirituality, etc. But this caused a little bit of a problem, because my interests go into topics which would be considered sensitive and simply would not have been in line with the personal business brand I wanted to build. In fact, it would have been the opposite of what I was trying to do, and it would have been contradictory to everything that I was teaching at the time. So I did create a series on how to have a product or service which you can sell from anywhere in the world. If you haven't checked that out, I will post a link for it. But what I was teaching at the time was how to use your social media platforms as your shop front to build a business, to build a brand where you can then sell a product or service from anywhere in the world. And part of that strategy was to focus solely on what you were trying to build and ignore everything else that was happening around the world, and ignore everything that had nothing to do with the brand you were trying to build. I'm also acutely aware that the content that I drafted and wanted to put out would have put me in a label of a paranoid, schizophrenic, whack job conspiracy theorist. And considering the watered down, woke culture, soft world that we live in, I'm certain some of the content would have been construed as offensive and adding more anxiety to a world that's already full with lots of anxiety. But here's the thing, I've said this before, and that content creation is a responsibility. Like, you have absolutely no idea who's watching, who's listening, and who's taking on board everything that you're putting out. Because most people, they don't engage, but they do actively read your content. Whilst juggling the pros and cons of whether to put this content out, the fact is, content creation should be about inner satisfaction and an expression of the self, which from a business point of view is the opposite, because from a business point of view, content creation should be about what your target audience wants, and it should be catered to solving their problems, and it should be about them only. But like I've explained in videos previously, like I find business content to be incredibly boring, and it's contrary to the interests that I have personally. And given recent events and what's happening around the world, I think it is the right time to put this content out. You know, there's so many business gurus out there. There's a lot of business content. For me, I'm getting bored of it because everyone's just parroting the same thing again and again and again, and it's really causing me to switch off. So I'm going to be still talking about business here and there, but I'm going to be slowly moving away from it and now focus more on these topics which hold my interest better. So one of the mistakes I made previously was putting out content for the majority, but what I have now come to realize is that content is not for the majority, it is for the very few, and the content that I put out regarding these topics is going to be for the very few, and it's going to be about creating a tribe, a small number of people that will take on board what I'm saying and then take appropriate action as a result. So here is the disclaimer: do not believe anything I say. There is no claim to truth whatsoever. I only have one purpose, and that is for you to develop the ability to think and arrive at decisions by yourself. Because let's be honest, we fully now live in a society where it really doesn't matter if something is true or not anymore. The only thing that matters is whether you believe it's true or not. And therefore it's very, very, very important for you to take control of what you believe, and more importantly, how you arrived at those beliefs. Because your whole life has been spent being conditioned, your whole life has been spent being programmed. It's time to break the conditioning and the programming, and for you to become an independent thinker. So whilst I wanted to create a positive only inspirational motivation brand, it would be a disservice to ignore the darker things that play around the world right now. Just remember, I want you to win, I want you to be rich, I want you to be happy, and I want you to be healthy. My overall message is one of hope, but before hope comes the diagnosis of the dark night. And look, there's a lot of despair out there, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of confusion. You know, a lot of people are starting to feel despondent and as if, you know, they can't do anything, and they're starting to lose hope. And if you find yourself being in one of those camps, maybe this Quranic verse will help you like it's been helping me. Say, He is my sustainer. There is no deity save Him. In Him have I placed my trust, and unto Him is my recourse. In other words, just remember what's the most important thing. And for me, and if you are religious, for you, the most important thing is that there is one God, and everything happens based upon the will of God. And if you're not religious, just find out what your core beliefs are and what the ultimate purpose is from your core beliefs. In the next video, I'm going to be talking more about the post that I drafted back in November and December, and add a few things on top of that, because lots of things have happened since then. From then on, the videos will go on to talk about other things happening around the world, as well as a brief look at modern history, which is then linked to the video that I just did yesterday about whether we are in the end times, because it is all linked in one way, shape or form. So if you like the sound of these videos, please go ahead and click the subscribe button, because like I said, this is going to be my analysis. There is no claim to truth. This is going to be me interpreting things. Therefore, it would be beneficial to have your thoughts, your opinions, and your discussion to make this more interesting. And until the next video, take care. Bye bye.